welcome to Some TV Movie Channel, your home for amazing movies and non-stop entertainment. Get ready to enjoy blockbuster hits, timeless classics, and exciting stories from every genre. Whether you love action, drama, comedy, or adventure, there's always something to watch here. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest uploads. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the movie experience with Some TV Movie Channel. Transformers: Age of Extinction is a 2014 science fiction action film based on Hasbro's iconic Transformers toy line. It serves as the sequel to Transformers: Dark of the Moon, 2011, and is the fourth installment in the Transformers film series. Directed by Michael Bay and written by Aaron Kruger, the film introduces a brand new human cast led by Mark Wahlberg and Stanley Tucci, alongside Kelsey Grammer, Nicola Peltz, Jack Renner, Sophia Myles, Lee Bingbing, Titus Welliver, and T.J. Miller in supporting roles. Unlike the previous three films, it does not feature the original human characters, instead presenting a fresh storyline with new heroes and Autobots, including the fan-favorite Dinobots. The story follows inventor Cade Yeager, who joins forces with Optimus Prime and the surviving Autobots after discovering that both humans and Transformers are being relentlessly hunted. As they uncover a dangerous conspiracy, they must fight powerful new enemies while protecting the future of both Earth and the Transformers. Released in the United States on June 27, 2014, by Paramount Pictures, the film received largely negative reviews from critics, who criticized its lengthy runtime, uneven pacing, direction, plot, and dialogue. Despite the mixed reception, it became a massive commercial success, earning over $1.105 billion worldwide against a production budget of $210 million. It was the highest-grossing film of 2014, the only movie released that year to surpass the $1 billion mark, and ranked as the 10th highest-grossing film of all time at the time of its release. The story continued with the 2017 sequel, Transformers: The Last Knight. The film opens 65 million years ago, when a mysterious alien race known as the Creators arrives on Earth. Using powerful devices called seeds, they transform the planet's surface into a metallic substance known as transformium, an event that is believed to have wiped out the dinosaurs. In the present day, geologist Darcy Tyrrell excavates one of these mysterious transformium deposits, setting in motion a chain of events that will once again bring humans and Transformers into an epic battle. 5 years after the Battle of Chicago, humanity has turned against the Transformers. Believing that all Cybertronians pose a threat, governments shut down every joint operation with the Autobots, including Nest. Although the public is told that the Autobots have been granted sanctuary, they are secretly hunted by Cemetery Wind, a rogue CIA Black Ops unit led by the ruthless intelligence operative Harold Attinger. Convinced that no Transformer can be trusted, Attinger is determined to wipe them all out. Meanwhile, Lockdown, a deadly Cybertronian bounty hunter working for the mysterious Creators, is sent to capture Optimus Prime. In return for helping him, Lockdown promises Attinger a powerful device known as the Seed if Cemetery Wind succeeds in delivering Optimus. Lockdown quickly tracks down Ratchet and demands Optimus Prime's location. When Ratchet refuses to betray his leader, Lockdown kills him. Severely damaged after years of hiding, Optimus secretly takes refuge in Texas, where he is discovered by Cade Yeager, a struggling inventor and single father. Cade's teenage daughter, Tessa, and his business partner, Lucas Flannery, urge him to hand Optimus over to the authorities for the reward money. Instead, Cade chooses to repair the Autobot leader. Hoping to claim the reward himself, Lucas secretly contacts the authorities. Soon after, Cemetery Wind Commander James Savoy leads an assault on the Yeager farm. Optimus, along with Tessa's secret boyfriend, Irish rally driver Shane Dyson, rescues the family during the attack. As they escape, Lucas is killed by one of Lockdown's grenades. Realizing the danger they face, Optimus summons the remaining Autobots of Bumblebee, Hound, Drift, and Crosshairs. Using a stolen CIA drone, Cade uncovers evidence that KSI Industries is secretly working with Cemetery Wind and is involved in the attacks against the Autobots. The group infiltrates KSI headquarters in Chicago, where Cade makes a horrifying discovery. The bodies of both Autobots and Decepticons are being melted down to create a new material called transformium, which is being used to manufacture Transformer drones. KSI CEO Joshua Joyce is working alongside Attinger to revolutionize global defense systems and improve human society using the seed to produce even more Transformium. Joshua has also used the captured brain and head of Megatron to create 2 prototype Transformers, Galvatron and Stinger. The Autobots launch an assault on the facility and destroy the laboratory. However, Joshua arrogantly insists that humanity no longer needs the Autobots. Attinger then forces him to deploy Galvatron and Stinger to hunt them down. During the battle, Galvatron begins behaving unpredictably and eventually breaks free from human control while fighting Optimus Prime. At that moment, Lockdown arrives and captures both Optimus and Tessa before escaping. Galvatron also withdraws from the battle. Lockdown's massive prison ship hovers over Chicago as he prepares to deliver the seed. Cade, Shane, and the Autobots secretly board the vessel to rescue Optimus and Tessa. During the mission, they seize a smaller ship carrying the legendary Dinobots. Before Lockdown leaves Earth, the Autobots discover the shocking truth that Galvatron is actually Megatron reborn. He plans to use the seed and the Transformer drones to conquer Earth, while KSI intends to activate the seed in the Mongolian desert to create enormous amounts of Transformium. Cade warns Joshua about Galvatron's true intentions. Realizing the danger, Joshua agrees to surrender the seed with help from Darcy and his Chinese business associate, Su Ming. Galvatron reactivates himself, takes complete control of the Transformer drones, and forms a new Decepticon army. This leads to a massive battle in Hong Kong involving the Autobots, Cemetery Wind, and the Decepticons. During the conflict, Cade causes James Savoy to fall to his death. Optimus frees the imprisoned Dinobots and earns their loyalty through combat, making them a decisive force in the battle. Lockdown returns to capture Optimus once again, using a giant magnetic weapon that tears through the city. After the magnet is disabled, Optimus confronts Lockdown in a final duel. While trying to save Cade, Optimus kills Harold Attinger, but the brief distraction allows Lockdown to pin him down with his sword. Cade courageously fights Lockdown long enough for Tessa and Shane to free Optimus using a tow truck. Once released, Optimus kills Lockdown and destroys the remaining Decepticons with one of Lockdown's own grenades. Galvatron escapes, promising that he will return. Following the victory, Optimus asks the Autobots to protect the Yeager family while Joshua offers to help rebuild their home. Optimus then departs into space carrying the seed, sending a message to the mysterious creators that he is coming for them. During the production of Transformers: Dark of the Moon, both Shia LaBeouf and director Michael Bay announced that they would not return for a 4th film. Several directors, including Roland Emmerich, Joe Johnston, John Turteltaub, Stephen Sommers, Louis Leterrier, and David Yates were rumored as possible replacements. Jason Statham was also rumored to star in the next installment. Hasbro CEO Brian Golden later revealed that discussions with Steven Spielberg, Michael Bay, and Paramount Pictures gave him the confidence to officially announce another Transformers movie. There were also rumors that the 4th and 5th films would be shot back-to-back with Jason Statham in the lead role, but both Statham and Bay denied these reports. Spielberg continued to support Bay's return as director. After lengthy negotiations, producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura confirmed that a 4th Transformers film was officially moving forward. In February 2012, Paramount Pictures and Michael Bay announced that Bay would return as both producer and director, with the film scheduled for release on June 27, 2014. Rather than rebooting the franchise, the movie would continue the story of Dark of the Moon, taking place 4 years after its events. Screenwriter Aaron Kruger returned to write the script, while composer Steve Jablonsky came back to score the film. In April 2013, it was announced that China Movie Channel and Netflix Enterprises would co-produce the film alongside Paramount Pictures, reflecting the franchise's growing global appeal. On September 1, 2013, the website Fusible reported several possible subtitles for the movie, including Last Stand, Future Cast, and Apocalypse. The following day, TFW 2005 revealed another title that would ultimately become the official name of the film, Transformers: Age of Extinction. On September 3, 2013, Paramount officially unveiled the first teaser poster for the film, confirming its title as Transformers: Age of Extinction. Casting began in late 2012, with Mark Wahlberg joining the project in November 2012 as the film's lead. Around the same time, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that the studio was searching for 2 additional key roles: Wahlberg's on-screen daughter and her boyfriend, a race car driver, Isabel Cornish, Nicola Peltz, Gabriella Wilde, and Margaret Qualley were considered for the daughter, while Luke Grimes, Landon LeBoyan, Brenton Thwaites, Jack Renner, and Hunter Parrish were shortlisted for the boyfriend. All three lead actors signed contracts for a planned trilogy. In January 2013, Jack Renner was officially cast as the boyfriend, and Nicola Peltz joined the film in March 2013 as Wahlberg's daughter. Peter Cullen returned once again as the iconic voice of Optimus Prime. Originally, Glenn Morshower announced in 2012 that he would reprise his role as General Morshower in the next two films. However, in May 2013, he confirmed he could not return because of scheduling conflicts. The cast continued to grow throughout 2013. In April, director Michael Bay revealed that Stanley Tucci had joined the film. On May 1, Kelsey Grammer was cast as the main human antagonist, Harold Attinger. Just days later, Sophia Myles joined in a major role, followed by Chinese actress Li Bingbing and comedian T.J. Miller later that month. In July 2013, Bay announced that Han Geng had joined the cast, while Titus Welliver was also added to the lineup. As the film's May 2014 release approached, Paramount revealed the voice cast for the Transformers. John Goodman voiced Hound, while Ken Watanabe brought Drift to life. Returning voice actors included Robert Foxworth as Ratchet and Reno Wilson as Brains, both reprising their roles from Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Frank Welker returned to voice Galvatron, a character he had originally voiced in the classic Transformers animated series. John DiMaggio joined as Crosshairs, while Mark Ryan voiced the ruthless bounty hunter Lockdown. Nearly 9 years after the film's release, comedian Ben Schwartz revealed in May 2023 that he had originally recorded several of Bumblebee's radio dialogue clips. Michael Bay hired him to create humorous radio conversations for the character, but most of those recordings were ultimately replaced with sound effects, leaving only a few of his original lines in the final cut. Filming officially began on May 28, 2013, in Monument Valley, Utah. Detroit doubled as Hong Kong for several scenes, while McCormick Place in Chicago was transformed into a Chinese city. The production became the first major feature film to use the compact digital IMAX 3D cameras. Additional formats included IMAX 70mm film, digital stereoscopic 3D, and both anamorphic and spherical 35mm film. Between May 28 and June 24, 2013, Michael Bay regularly shared images of the film's new Autobot vehicles on social media platforms such as Facebook and Flickr. Among them were a black and blue 2013 Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport Vitesse, initially identified by the production name Drift, and a green 2014 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray concept, temporarily known as Slingshot. Bay also revealed Optimus Prime's redesigned alternate Modia, a custom Western Star truck. On October 29, 2013, Bay officially confirmed that both the Dinobots and Lockdown would appear in the film. Shortly afterward, he announced via Twitter that principal photography had wrapped in Hong Kong, with the cast and crew moving to mainland China for an additional week of filming. Extra filming continued in Detroit during early 2014. Two historic steamships, the Columbia and the Sweet Claire, once used to transport passengers to Bobolo Island, were partially restored and featured as props. General Motors granted the production team access to several of its facilities, including the GM Technical Center, where scenes were shot inside the design studios and wind tunnel complex. Crews also filmed high-speed chase sequences at the Milford Proving Grounds. On October 17, 2013, while filming in Hong Kong, director Michael Bay was assaulted by two brothers with the surname Make, who allegedly demanded 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, approximately $12,900. During the confrontation, the older brother also attacked three police officers. Both brothers, along with the third suspect surnamed Chen, were arrested. The younger Make faced additional charges of attempted blackmail. In February 2014, the Make brothers pleaded guilty and were sentenced to prison, with prosecutors noting that the highly publicized case had negatively affected Hong Kong's international image. The film's visual effects were once again created by Industrial Light Magic, led by VFX supervisor Scott Farrer, who had overseen the previous three Transformers films. According to Farrer, nearly 90 minutes of the movie's 165-minute runtime featured visual effects. He described it as the largest project of his career, involving more than 500 artists and technicians working across multiple ILM facilities. Production utilized 9 different camera formats, including IMAX film, digital IMAX, single-frame anamorphic film, GoPro cameras, crash cameras, red cameras, and advanced stereoscopic 3D rigs, making it one of the most technically ambitious films of its time. The musical score was composed by Steve J. Blonsky, marking his sixth collaboration with director Michael Bay and his fourth Transformers film. The soundtrack sold more than 15,000 copies worldwide. It also became the first Transformers movie without an original song from Linkin Park, although the band's single Until It's Gone appeared in the soundtrack for the video game based on the film. Electronic music producer Skrillex contributed to the film's sound design, explaining that he created some of his most intense and experimental sounds for the project, including effects for the Dinobots. Imagine Dragons recorded the original song Battle Cry, which played during the film's climactic battle and end credits. They also recorded an unreleased track titled All For You. The score's opening piece, Leave Planet Earth Alone, incorporates the drum beat from Battle Cry, creating a seamless musical transition into the credits. However, this combined version appears only in the film and was never commercially released. Imagine Dragons also collaborated with Steve J. Blonsky and Hans Zimmer, contributing additional music to the score. On June 30, 2014, a 4-track extended play, EP, was released digitally on iTunes as a preview of the full score. The complete soundtrack followed on July 4, 2014. With the physical CD release arriving through La La Land Records on October 7, 2014. Later that year, on November 20, 2014, Steve J. Blonsky announced on Facebook that the score had been removed from iTunes and other digital music stores after reaching its distribution limit of 15,000 units, at which point additional licensing fees would have been required. J. Blonsky expressed disappointment over the decision and hoped the score, along with Transformers: Dark of the Moon, which had been removed under similar circumstances, would eventually be re-released. Transformers: Age of Extinction held its world premiere in Hong Kong on June 19, 2014, accompanied by a live performance from Imagine Dragons. The film's first television commercial debuted during Super Bowl XLVI, where it became the most anticipated trailer of the event in a Fandango poll, earning 48% of the votes. The first full teaser trailer was released on March 4, 2014. Launching a viral marketing campaign. Shortened versions of the trailer later aired during the Season 4 finale of The Walking Dead and the 2014 MTV Movie Awards, helping build excitement ahead of the film's release. Chevron launched a major promotional campaign for Transformers: Age of Extinction at the New York International Auto Show, showcasing General Motors vehicles alongside exclusive footage from the film. To further build excitement, Hasbro released an official mobile app for iOS and Android on May 8, 2014. The app gave fans access to exclusive content, including character biographies, images, interviews with the cast, and other behind-the-scenes material. On May 12, a special preview featuring never-before-seen footage and an interview with the band Imagine Dragons aired during The Voice. Hasbro also partnered with Dinat to develop an official mobile game based on the film. The project was announced on May 13, 2014, while still in development. That same day, Oreo launched a creative marketing campaign featuring a television commercial in which a young boy gives a wounded Optimus Prime an Oreo cookie, helping him continue the fight. On May 15, an exclusive theatrical trailer premiered on iTunes Movie Trailers at 12:01 a.m. Pacific Time. The marketing campaign continued throughout May with a steady stream of promotional content. 2 new TV spots featuring fresh footage were released online on May 21, followed by an update to the film's viral campaign on May 22. The update introduced new character posters and realistic news reports depicting the aftermath of the destruction of Chicago from Transformers: Dark of the Moon. 3 additional television spots with brand new footage were released online on May 30. On June 8, 2014, Jack Rayner and Nicola Peltz made several promotional appearances in the Twin Cities. During an interview on a Canadian morning television show, the two actors promised fans an action-packed film with plenty of exciting surprises. Kelsey Grammer appeared on Late Show with David Letterman on June 9, where the first official movie clip debuted. The scene featured a tense confrontation between Grammer's character and Mark Wahlberg's character. A brand new TV commercial also aired during the show's first commercial break. The promotional campaign intensified as the release date approached. On June 10, 2 additional television spots featuring extensive new footage were released online. Earlier that year, at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards on March 29, Mark Wahlberg hosted the event, while Peter Cullen appeared as the voice of Optimus Prime. Wahlberg, Nicola Peltz, and Jack Renner also participated in the show's signature slime cannon segment. 3 more television spots were released on June 14th, showcasing the Dinobots transforming and featuring new dialogue from Lockdown. Another TV spot premiered on Comedy Central on June 17th, followed by yet another promotional spot released online on June 18th, both containing fresh footage. The film's unconventional marketing strategy also attracted attention from film critics, by allowing fans to freely record portions of the production at selected filming locations. The campaign inspired critic Kevin Beeley's video essay Transformers: The Pre-Make, which examined the unique approach to movie promotion. In February 2014, Activision announced Transformers: Rise of the Dark Spark, a companion video game developed by Edge of Reality. Released in June 2014, the game launched on Microsoft Windows, Nintendo 3DS, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Wii U, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. During the summer of 2014, Rovio and Hasbro also unveiled Angry Birds Transformers, which featured characters designed in the style of the live-action films. Transformers: Age of Extinction was released on Blu-ray, Blu-ray 3D, and DVD in North America on September 30, 2014. Its Blu-ray edition became the first home release to include a Dolby Atmos soundtrack encoded with Dolby True HD. The film was also made available digitally through iTunes and Google Play on September 16, 2014. Followed by an Ultra HD Blu-ray release on December 5, 2017. Home entertainment sales generated approximately $65.3 million at the worldwide box office. Transformers: Age of Extinction earned $245.4 million in the United States and Canada and $859.8 million internationally, for a global total of $1.105 billion against a production budget of $210 million. On August 3, 2014, it surpassed the $1 billion milestone, becoming the only film released in 2014 to achieve that feat worldwide. According to Deadline Hollywood, the movie generated an estimated net profit of $250.2 million, making it the most profitable film of 2014. The film opened strongly around the world, earning approximately $302.1 million during its global opening weekend. At the time, it marked the highest worldwide opening of 2014 and the second largest opening in Paramount Pictures history, behind Transformers: Dark of the Moon. During its theatrical run, it became the highest-grossing film of 2014 worldwide and ranked among the top 10 highest-grossing films of all time at that point. In North America, the film opened on June 27, 2014, in 4,233 theaters. Thursday night preview screenings brought in $8.75 million, one of the year's biggest preview grosses. On Friday alone, the movie earned $31.25 million, bringing its first-day total to $41.6 million, including $10.7 million from IMAX theaters. Its opening weekend reached $100.04 million, setting the biggest domestic opening of 2014 until it was later surpassed by The Hunger Games: Mockingjay Part 1. It also became Paramount's fourth highest opening weekend and the fifth largest June debut at the time. Audience demographics showed an even split between moviegoers under and over the age of 25, with 64% of viewers being male and 27% under the age of 18. The film remained at the top of the North American box office for 2 consecutive weekends before being overtaken by Dawn of the Planet of the Apes in its third weekend. During that same weekend, it surpassed the $200 million domestic milestone, becoming the fifth film of 2014 to do so. It completed its theatrical run on October 9, 2014. With a final domestic gross of $245.4 million, making it one of the highest-grossing films of the year in the United States and Canada. Internationally, Transformers: Age of Extinction dominated the global box office. It debuted in 37 countries across 10,152 screens, earning $202.1 million during its opening weekend outside North America, around 35% higher than the international debut of Transformers: Dark of the Moon. It also set a new record for the biggest international IMAX opening at the time, collecting $16.6 million from 266 IMAX theaters, a record later surpassed by Jurassic World. Despite competing with the 2014 FIFA World Cup, The film remained the #1 movie internationally for 4 consecutive weekends before finally being overtaken by Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Major international opening weekends included South Korea, $21.7 million, Brazil, $16.5 million, Germany, $11.2 million, Australia, $9.6 million, France, $8.8 million, Taiwan, $8.1 million, Malaysia, in Russia, the film opened to number India with $21.7 million from 1,100 screens, which is the second largest in theater territory, for which 3D accounted for 80% of the total gross. IMAX comprised $2.6 million of the total gross from 34 IMAX screens. Its biggest opener outside the US was in China, where it scored one of far the biggest non-North Americana openings of all time with $91.20 million from 4,400 screens, which was once the second biggest opening of all time there. The film set an all-time IMAX opening record with $9.7 million. After 5 days of its release, Age of Extinction surpassed its North Americana run with $134.5 million. In China, the film earned an additional $50.9 million in its second weekend for a total of $212.8 million. In only 10 days of its release, it became the highest-grossing film in China with $222.74 million. Thus overtaking Avatar's previous record. Adding to the film's revenue and popularity were product placements of Chinese brands edited into the movie specifically for Chinese audiences. It became the highest-grossing film in China with $31 to $328 million in revenue, surpassing 2009's record set by Avatar, $24 million, until it was surpassed by Furious 7 in 2015, over $398 million. It is also the first movie in China to gross more than $300 million at the box office. A large part of their success in China has been attributed to the large fan base there and because of its accompanying animated TV series, which ran during the 1980s and 1990s, was one of the highest quality TV programs at that time, which resulted in many children getting attached to it. Transformers toy merchandising was an era of the first successful cases by our foreign company in China at its time. Its line of transforming robot toys was highly sought after, especially by boys. At the end of its theatrical run outside in North America, the film earned $858,600,000, which is 77.8% of its total gross. In total earnings, the highest revenue came from China, $31 million, Russia, $45.20 $2 million, South Korea, $43.3 million, Germany, $38.2 million, Mexico, $33.5 million, the UK, $33.1 million, and Australia, $24.9 million. The $100 million opening announced by Paramount for Transformers: Age of Extinction received skepticism within the film industry. According to Rentrack, which has a direct line into the vast majority of theaters in the United States and Canada to track actual ticket sales, about 4,100 of the 4,233 theaters playing the film generated $95.9 million. The projected total from the Rentrack sales data would put the opening 3-day weekend gross at around $97.5 million. For Transformers to have crossed the $100 million threshold, it would have needed to gross more than the nationwide average in the theaters not tracked by Rentrack. Some media outlets selected to go with the Rentrack figure over Paramount's. On Rotten Tomatoes, Transformers: Age of Extinction has an approval rating of 18% based on 212 reviews and an average rating of 4/10. The site's critical consensus reads, with the 4th installment in McCalbar's blockbuster Transformers franchise, nothing is in disguise. Fans of louder effects-driven action will find a satisfaction, and all others need not to apply. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 32 out of 100 based on 38 critics, indicating generally unfavorable reviews. Audiences polled by a cinema score gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale. Richard Rohr gave the film a D, saying that the longer the movie goes on, the less interesting it becomes. It just wears you down. As we were finally reaching the 165-minute mark, all that noise and fury was about as exciting as the special effects in an Ed Wood movie. Peter Travers of Rolling Stone gave the film 0 out of 4 stars, calling it the worst and most worthless a Transformers movie yet. Okot of the New York Times said in his review that the story is scaffolding for the action and like every other standing structure, and is erect in a thunderous shower of metal, glass, masonry, and earth. Clarence Sui of The Hollywood Reporter commented on his review that it barely skirts the idea that humankind and planet Earth are about to be totally annihilated. What is extinguished is the audience's consciousness after being bombarded for nearly 3 hours with overwrought emotions. There's a missile in the living room, Tessa hollers twice, a bad in the liners, and battles that really rise above the banal. A trio of editors make a technical marvel out of the fighter scenes, but can do little to link the story's multiple threads into something coherent. Roth Cornett of IGN gave the film a score of 6.3 out of 10, praising the slightly darker, surprising tone and lockdown under his ship while criticizing the logic, script issues and long-running time. Joe Newmayer of the New Yorker Daily News gave the film 1 out of 5 stars, commenting that if the human seems all reek of adolescent dialogue and dopey snark masquerading as our character development, it's a toss-up by far that's better or worse than seeing a clattering collections of college announcer junk. Variety called the movie a splendidly patriotic film, if you happen to be Chinese. They lamented the film a slipshod production and said that Michael Bay crossed the line into a self-parody. Odd. It's been only a few years since the devilish Decepticons demolished Chicago and the awesome Autobots finally fought them off. But quite frankly, human memories are short, and we generally just want to be done with all those giant shape-shifting robots, both the good and the bad. In fact, a prominent government official named Harold Edinger has already decreed that the age of Transformers is over, and so he sends out a special military Black Ops team to hunt all the surviving bots down and get rid of them permanently. Behind the scenes, there are some seriously unscrupulous things going on. Tech tycoon Joshua Joyce and his powerful military tech company KSI have he made some 7-figure promises to adding aura in exchange for the green light to start experimenting with transforming metals dubbed Transformium. Between that easily malleable stuff and leftover scraps of Decepticons and Autobots, Joyce has all manner of robot building plans. There's even an alien bounty hunter bot in the new metalomorphing mix named Lockdown. Here for adding or something called a cedar bomb-like device that's keto harvesting more transformium than Edinger and Joyce could use in a century. And all this powerful pile of metal and madness wants in exchange is to get he submits on a certain Autobot leader by the name of what is it again? Oh yeah, a Optimus Prime. Where that particular transformer is, however, nobody knows. Nobody except Cade Yeager. That is Cade is a Texas scrap dealer, failed robotics engineer who just so happened to come here into the possession of an old beat super truck recently. It was his hope to fix the old junker up and sell it for for cash to help his 17-year-old daughter Tessa get to college. But that plan changed a bit when Cade hooked the trucker up to a car battery and it started to spark, move, and talk. Could this result in a high-action adventure for Cade and his daughter? Or could it perhaps be the beginning of a rambunctious reboot for the Autobots? Or maybe it's the first step for Edinger and Joy to sew up loose ends and throw all their fish robot building plans into action? Will this kinky and knotty diffuse pull all of the Transformers players together for an enormous battle but war that stretches from Texas to Hong Kong, demolishing anything and everything in its path? Sure. Why not all of the above? There's certainly a time in this nearly 3-hour smash-masher fantasy flick. Cade regularly states that his daughter is the best thing that ever happened to him and he repeatedly moves to do anything and everything necessary to protect her. She often unfairly gives credit for those rescues to her boyfriend Shane, but Cade takes that in stride. And Tessa finally recognizes her pop's efforts, saying that he was her hero throughout her life. Optimus Prime makes some self-sacrificial choices as well. At first, he's totally fed up with human betrayals and ready to abandon us to our own collectively foolish choices. Butikad's shining example, along with the man's challenge to have faith in what humanity can be, spurs Optimus and his Autobot allies to step back up as the defenders they're destined to be. And that makes Optimus grade A prime, you might say. Early in the pic, Mr. Prime talks of the Transformers' power source as a spark that holds their strength and their memories. Cade tells him, "We call it a soul." Later, when Optimus battles a man-made robot called Galvatron, he tells the rampaging robot, "You have no soul." It replies, "That is why I have no fear." Cade takes a moment to toss our comment skyward to his deceased wife, telling her that she would be proud of the young woman their daughter has to become. Cade makes the point that he forbade his daughter to date boys until after her high school graduation. His reason being that he and Tessa's mom made the mistake of getting pregnant in high school, and he wants to help Tessa avoid that life-changing situation. That admirable concern for his daughter's purity, however, soon becomes something of a running joke as we find out that 17-year-old Tessa and a 20-year-old Shane have been hooking up behind Cade's back for a while now. The young lovers point out that even though she's a minor and he's an adult, their intimate relationship is legally covered by a Texas Romeo and Juliet law. Leona, once the cat is out of the sleeping bag, the two young people continually rib their suggested sexual connection in their dad's face. Shane steals a bottle of mouthwash, for instance, saying, "I like here to be fresh when I'm making out with your daughter." And when Cade recalls hearing noises in the house in the dead of night, Shane says it was him, implying a sexual rendezvous with Tessa. We see the couple kiss. From the moment we first meet Tessa and her high school girlfriends, all dressed in curvy hugging t-shirts and shorts, the camera stays ready to ogle tanned and toned Tina's skin whenever possible. When Cade makes a mention of his daughter's skimpy attire, the camera's eye swoops into Tessa's shorts clad backside to make sure we see the full view. An old movie theater owner talks of the days of movies with pretty female dancers and their big Ks. A number of other girls and women wear cleavage and midriff-bearing outfits, tight hot pants, and short-form hugging dresses. A Chinese executive is paraded around as eye candy when she's not called upon to use her vicious martial arts skills to kick men in the face. That is the hints at one category of bamboo in this explosive film. And in that subtle and personal vein, we see Cade, his comrades, and various others manhandled and pummeled by humans and robots alike. The Black Ops team throws Cade and his daughter around, slamming them both to the ground and putting a gun to her head with threats of blowing her brains out. Later, a CIA thug, so described because of how he acts, chases Cade down the outside wall of our multi-story apartment complex between bouts of the two pounding each other and mercilessly in several living quarters. Eventually, Cade gets the upper hand and smashes the other guy through a window, sending him to his death 20 stories down. We see a man thumped on the head by a giant robot's arm. Another slammed in the face by a ramp jumping a car's tire. A robot's fire blasts his arm into a petrified statue of bone and gristle. And with slow MMO detail, we see what's happening to some of the human victims caught up in the massive VR robot battles. A few are grabbed and rescued, but many more go spiraling like tiny tattered ragdolls or smashing out of car windshields as they crash. As for the grand-scale paroxysms, there are never any halfways here. In fact, director Michael Bay likely spent as much on pyrotechnics and CGI whiz-bang area as many small countries have in their entire national budget. Every kind of disastrous blasting, erupting, and demolishing you can imagine is packed into this too-long film. Hugh drawing a Dinobot steer into town with spiked tails and 4-feet-long teeth. Mechanical dogs snap and lunge at our heroes. An enormous alien spacecraft uses magnetic weaponry to suck buildings, vehicles, railroad cars, and freight liners hundreds of feet up into the air and then send them smashing to the earth again. Guns, large and small, blaze a wire constantly. Explosions erupt with massive force. The city of Hong Kong is nearly leveled. And of course, millions of human residents get caught in the crossfire of the ground-up city mulch. Transformers area brutally hacked in half, decapitated, blown to bits, and chomped to metal mash. Optimus Prime says he had made a vow not to kill humans, but he resents that in one particularly vile man's case. He hits the dastardly dude with a powerful blast that leaves the relatively frail human dead, crumpled, and singed. Tessa talks to her high school friends about getting wasted after their upcoming graduation. We see Bud Light bottles littering our city street. Cade picks one up that's still full, opens it, and gulps the brew down. Maybe it's no surprise then that one of Cade's inventions is a robot that delivers cold beers from the fridge. A transformer regularly puffs on a glowing shell casing as if it were a cigar. The age of the transformer is over. Hardly, but it sure has evolved. How innocent those ads toys that folded and shifted on little plastic joints and inspired playtime imagination seem now. Thanks to Michael Bay's steady stream of metal shifting, screeching, and pounding a summer blockbuster picks his own a particular brand of cinematic excess. The Transformers franchise has become something altogether different. DC days, Its shape-shifting robots are about infinitely malleable CGI bombast. They offer a hard-driving movie roller coaster ride of whirling warriors, a stupendous explosions, ear-earning and a brain-numbing cacophony and world-ripping destruction. Movies 1, 2, and 3. Transformers, A Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, A Transformers, Dark of the Moon, all sit at that larger-than-life stage. Transformers, Age of Extinction merely chews up whatever remains of the Steeler scenery. Yes, there are a few minor changes in this edition. The robots gain some next-gen tweaks and robo-dinosaurs make a short appearance, and not that most will notice or care. The human cast who is well transformed, with Mark Wahlberg now serving as the out-of-his-depth hero and Nicola Peltz as his siren and Short's daughter. Everything else, though, feels remarkably unaltered, as in static, unable to bend or move. A decrepit. That includes a contradiction-laden wisp of a script, a cavalcade of far human deaths, a ratty-tat-tat of fouler words, and enough bed-teen skin to coax a Victoria's Secret into spending some of its product placement dollars on Thea's flick. There comes a time when you started to think, am I really going to start ranking the Transformers films? And the answer turns out to be apparently because there's a lot of chatter out there about how Transformers Age of Extinction is so god almighty awful, and it's really not actually. Now, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, that's the franchise's second film from 2009. That's a god mighty awful motion picture that 5 years after I saw it, still makes me reel from the aesthetic savagery of it. The complete refusal to function in the most basic terms as a work of cinema or piece of narrative. Age of Extinction isn't very good, for it is still a Transformers picture, but it comes at least kind of far close. I'd put it on P with / above the original Transformers from 2007 and a hair below 2011's Transformers, Dark of the Moon, the latter of which remains after 613 minutes worth of franchise, are the only one of the movies that was able to put together an entire action sequence that's actually worth it. In part, it comes down to the human element. A sentence that I'm pleased to have typed out, since I was half convinced that my keyboard would erupt in flames before I finished it. Not the human element of the protagonists, since they're awful. In fact, screenwriter Aaron Krug has somehow managed to write leads for the new wave of Transformers movies even worse than the scrawny geek fantasy show they played in the last trilogy. And the casting director found an actress bad enough to make the model from Dark of the Moon seem modestly talented, and to make Megan Fox seem like an important younger actress of exceptional talent and a psychological insight. Besides which, any hint of decent characterization is quite wiped out by a story that proceeds through some insanely convoluted bends for a franchise that requires no more a narrative complexity than make these robot toys shoot at those robot toys. No, you're doing it wrong. Man manages to leave damn near every single one of its plot threads, from the biggest to the smallest, dangling without much more than the illusion of resolution at the end. And the most unresolved threads are the honors having to do with the emotional relationships of the main characters. Despite the first hour of a movie that ends up stretching to a comically unjustified 165 minutes, indulging itself with lots of highly specific and methodical exposition and action setting up those emotional relationships. So, when the overprotective dad and a scoundrelish boyfriend conflict seems to have largely taken care of itself off-screen, it's easy to be even pisser at the film than normal. But I was starting off like I wanted to compliment the movie. Though, anyway, the human element, by which I exclusively refer to Joshua Joyce, the film's requisite bard capitalist who shifts over the course of the movie from being the secret chief villain to being the foppish secondary villain to being the comic anti-hero sidekick, none of which would augur well for him if he weren't being played by a Stanley Jew, and thus turning into, no two ways about it, the best human-sized thing in any of the movies of the series to date. He brings the same camp, hamminess that John Malkovich had in Dark of the Moon, but in a vastly larger role. And while his snitty presubossiness isn't exactly great acting with a capital A, and is plainly no challenge for 2G of all actors, it's absolutely perfect for a popcorn movie with its big notes and broad strokes and a flawlessly honed sense of fun. Nobody, mind you, goes into a movie like these expecting to give much, if any, of a damn about the characters. So, Chew's effectiveness is more of a bonus than anything. But, it's still nice to view it, particularly given that nothing else in Age of Extinction is even slightly better than it has to be. and is often less. For all that the series defenders like to accuse people like myself of hating movies where you just go and have a good time at the theater, I have to confess that it's not remotely clear what about this is supposed to be a good time. The visual effects are as costly and perfect as ever, and the titular robots just keep getting easier and easier to actually look at as distinct figures and not vaguely anthropoid clusters of sharp chrome-covered points. The sound mix flawlessly combines the several layers of chaotic noise and booming music in a hugely convincing and even coherent flurry of activity and energy. So on a purely experiential level, Age of Extinction works, but what experience is it creating anyway? Like its three predecessors, it's only really great at pummeling the viewer into oblivion. And if that's really enough to qualify as fun these days, I'd prefer to be constantly bored. Technical polish or not, this still isn't effective action. It's not as music dizzying in its incoherence as Revenge of the Fallen. What could be? But it feels more like an assembly edit than a final cut with so many tiny continuity errors that you couldn't even make a drinking game out of them. But the bigger problem that so many scenes and shots simply don't flow. We see a character in the Arctic and then a few seconds later he's in Chicago, or a character is on one side of the road and then manages to be walking down the road on the other quickly enough that it just feels wrong in some itchy but not quite definably way. I think discovered something about the cinema of Michael Bay, and these are his 11th feature film as director. He's a great at constructing images of violent balletic poetry, of making the most picturesque explosions and iconic moments from what feel like the world's biggest beer commercial, which firstly comes across rather literally in view of the combustive amounts of product placement in Age of Extinction. For both American and Chinese products, a most peculiar psychological disorientation results from watching what are obviously product shots for products you don't recognize. And in this case, he is aided considerably by a cinematographer Amir Mokri, bringing some of the codelic tenderness he developed in shooting Man of Steel to the film's Norman Rockwell scenes of rural Texas. Parts of Age of Extinction, almost solely in the first tower area, actively gorgeous, and their area perfectly framed shots of chaos and action throughout. But if he is a greater maker of images, what Bay can't do at all is to combine those images in a row. Every cut feels like it introduces our brand new physical reality, and in fairness, fewer of them. Age of Extinction slows down quite a lot from its predecessors. I was timing, music, in fact, and it takes more than 2 minutes for the first shot with a duration of less than 3 seconds. That's downright esque by Transformers standards. Even so, the editing is so bad at establishing a relationship between moments that the most stately long take still refuses to build up any momentum, or it could just be form following content. The story of Age of Extinction is itself such a cluster of disconnected ideas that don't build on each other. The editing is in a sense merely doing its job. There's a shitload going on involving the death of the dinosaurs, an alien metal given the delightfully tacky name of Transformium, the CIA joining forces with a shady defense contractor, a rogue Transformer bounty hunter, and the rural inventor K. Jagger, Mark Wahlberg, a completely lost at sea, the most transcendentally fake movie name of these or many recent years. I would expect a particularly low-rent Chuck Norris vehicle to come up with that. Woe discovers the dusty remains of Optimus Prime, voice of Peter Cullen, leader of the good Transformers, in hiding these years since the war between Autobots and Decepticons nearly destroyed Chicago. Cade has a hot daughter, Tessa, Nilo Belts. Tessa has a hot illicit older racing boyfriend, Shane Dyson, Jack Rona. Music, and if you suppose that Shane's skill for tricky driving would come in handy in a movie about robots who transform into cars, you'd be unbelievably wrong. Tessa and Shane exist pretty much for no reason other than to provide attractive people for the adolescent audience to ogle. Crewmajor provides a nifty very long scene indicating how exactly a 20-year-old can a 17-year-old in Texas and have it not be statutory rape. A narrative dead end that communicates mostly that the writer has done an amount of research into the fine details of age of consent laws that I am not personally very comfortable with. Shane is from Ireland, as Cade points out in mocking his accent, a scene that apparently only exists to make the audience uncomfortably aware that the man mocking the kid for being from Dublin, Texas is himself pretty unmistakably from Boston, Texas, and should really shut his trap. These people find themselves squaring off against the impeccably bearded Black Ops mastermind Harold, adding Kelsey Grammer, everyone's favorite movie Thuga, and it ends up involving robot dinosaurs and an exploding terraforming device that turns animals into transformium, and the late evil robot Megatron who endeavors to resurrect himself in the body of the human new prototype Galvatron, and he now very excitingly is voiced by the legendary Frank Welker, whose characters would otherwise be all dead. What Age of Extinction never does nor even apparently considers doing, so explaining why the hell we care. The basic stakes and conflict of the movie are so murky, shift so frequently, and virtually never have anything to do with the protagonists beyond the fact that they keep being dragged along. Now, no, to every action movie needs to be conceptually sound or conceptually coherent, even not if it has solid, well-crafted action sequences to make up for it. And in the abstract, Age of Extinction has that. But though all the ingredients are readily visible, they haven't been made into an actual functioning cinematic object. It's the difference between putting flour, butter, and sugar on somebody's plate or giving them a slice of cake. And Michael Bay has made a pretty damn lousy cake. I'm not even sure I should credit this rambling train wreck with a plot synopsis, since it completely lacks a coherence. Jumping from scene to scene and making a little sense for most of the film, Age of Extinction is substandard in story, even for a Michael Bay film. Characters area tossed around like nothing. Plot points pop up and then disappear in action. The sequences are tied together by logic so loose duct tape couldn't even save it. By the time we were rolling into the second hour, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes long. I began to wonder if the screenwriters were actually challenging themselves to make the most incoherent mess they could just to see if people would still pay for it. Answer: the will. The thing they try to call a plot starts out in Texas long after the events of Transformers 3. Dark of the Moon. We find Cadogan Mark Wahlberg living with music, his daughter Tessa and Nicola Peltz in Texas. The Autobots have gone into hiding after the US government has started hunting for them thanks to the evil leadership of Harold and Kelsey Grammer. He's working with the inventor Joshua Joyce, Stanley Tucci, to steal the Autobots' technology and do something evil with it. They're also being helped by some sort of Transformer bounty hunter who wants to capture Optimus Prime. Also, there are 3 new Autobots we've never heard of, and we're supposed to care about them. Anyway, Cade finds Optimus Prime broken down, and without knowing it revives him, and then explosions start happening. In our reality, that's all I really want from our Transformers movie. That plot seems pretty dumb, but we can work with it, right? Not really. Nothing holds it together well in the film. The screenplay is easily the most banal of the entire trilogy, though I still think this is better than the horrendous Transformers 2. It treats the audience here like they can't see what's going on our screen and tosses out one-liners with no meaning at all. John Goodman voices the Autobot Hound, whose only job is to spit out nonsensical one-liners that hurt, but some of the new Transformers are spectacular. Lockdown is especially good. Mark Wahlberg is a breath of fresh air as Kate Jagger, a would-be inventor and engineer, brings a more grounded and less frenetic feel to the human element of the film. In fact, free from the increasingly toxic presence of Shirley, the whole film is a more enjoyable prospect. Kelsey Grammer is great as the immoral and determined leader of the Black Ops 2 division hunting down Transformers, and Stanley Tucci is similarly superb as the billionaire technology mogul who's been working with the government to reverse engineer Cybertronian tech. Of the excellent supporting cast of Sophie A. Miles, Nicola Peltz, Jack Reiner, Leah Bingbing, T.J. Miller, Melania Specht, A. Victoria Summer, James Batchman, plus our cameo from Hong Gang. Only Tychusa Oliver is treated unfairly and only because he's given to a one-note nostalgia character and the lion's share of the worst of the dialogue to chew on. If you're thinking of taking the kids, as long as you are not squeamish about a robot disembowelment and torture or a surprisingly high but bloodless human body count, you should probably be aware there's a smattering of swearing and an F-bomb in the mix. 2. Transformers. Age of Extinction feels slightly overstated, probably reflecting the dual role the film had to fulfill. It had to tell an action-packed story while also setting up a bunch of loose threads for future Transformers sequels, and barring a bit of bloating, it's largely successful. The 2 main plots are the bounty hunter locked down searching for Optimus Prime at the request of the mysterious creators and the humans' attempt to create the era own Transformers, which is sabotaged by a familiar Decepticon presence. There are even fleeting signs of a sense of far meta self-awareness, as there are quips about the terrible quality of movies in general and sequels in particular. And in an unexpectedly gruesome masterous stroke, a depressingly familiar comic relief character is introduced early on, only to meet a very unpleasant end shortly thereafter. It feels cathartic, like it was somehow vicariously Bayou Sam with Twiggy being silenced forever. Even some of Bar's worst tendencies are toned down here. The camera is less leerous than in previous installments, and while there's our certain low-level jingoistic stereotyping, it's nowhere near as distasteful as some of the shenanigans are in Revenge of the Fallen. Before I wrap up, I can't talk about Transformers, Saga of Extinction, without mentioning the Dinobots, or should that be giant robot or dinosaur Transformers. None of them are name-checked within the film, and there's no origin story. So for those who are unhappy with their designs or the way they are used, you can just decide they might be some mere dinosaur robots, but they're not the dinos. Besides, despite the heavy promotion and marketing, they don't turn up until the last half hour of this nearly 3-hour movie. If you hate the Bayformers, it might still be worth giving this one a shot. Maybe because I'd recently rewatched the first 3 movies, I went into this one with an open mind, viewed rock bottom expectations, and actually I had a pretty good time. The partial reboot has given the whole franchise a shot in the arm, and although it's still not the Transformers I'd love to see done in live action, it was much closer than it's been before. There's a tiny glimmer of hope that they'll get even a better, but it needs to be handed over to a new writer and director to fully refresh it and restore the purity of its spark. It's easily my favorite of the films so far, and the only one I wouldn't mind watching again sometime. Decent and demanding summer blockbuster entertainment, but still not a patch on my rose-tinted half-imagined nostalgic Transformers memories. Autobots roll out. Michael Bay jog on. This latest installment of the highly popular Transformers film franchise must be an ear of the anticipated movies this year to most people. Who doesn't like seeing awesome-looking gigantic transformable robots battling and destroying our cities in a movie? Especially boys. We totally like it. The first one was great. The second one, A Revenge of Fallen, was a bit of a letdown. The third one, Dark of the Moon, was going back on the right track. And now we come to this latest 4th installment, Age of Extinction. And my first reaction after watching it was this is not good. I'm having a headache here now. Music. To say it in a mucus straightforward way, this is by far the worst Transformers film compared to the earlier 3. Michael Bay, the former director, should have stuck to his earlier decision to have the 3rd installment as the last of the franchise, and no to creating much more sequels that are getting lousier. Nevertheless, I'm sure this movie is going to make it big now. The box office intake worldwide, too, predicted to reach over $1 billion grossing. But in terms of quality, almost everything ends in a disappointment. The story is weak and not engaging. To be honest, I'm totally not interested in the issues between the main character, now changed to Kate Jagger, portrayed by Mark Wahlberg, with her daughter and her daughter's lover. But that's one of the major storylines that dragged the whole thing and got us bored most of the time. Those are intended as to put in some moving human-centered elements instead of showing all robotic fights only. But in the end it didn't work out well. No effort is put on the plot. I also realize that there are some hilarious scenes added in to crack things up okay, but still those don't save the movie from becoming a disaster. The outcome is we have a movie that took over 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's too long, and it seriously wears us down. I can say only the last 30 minutes or so were interesting, when things finally lead to massive battle at the city of Hong Kong. Only that part crazily awesome. But by the time we reached that moment, our mood had gone downhill already. The actions are still great as expected from Michael Bay, but sometimes too much of that lead to mess and discomfort for the audiences to watch. Those action sequences should be done in a much more organized way, only then it would be perfect. Now it made me having a headache after watching it. Nevertheless, the visuals are great as usual, particularly some slow motion effect scenes. But if you want me to compare the battle at Chicago in the Dark of the Moon to this one at Hong Kong for the final climax, I prefer the former. The familiar robot figures returning to this film are Optimus Prime, of course, Bumblebee, and only a few others more. Many new Transformers are added. Some are great, while some are pointless to be introduced here. The Dinobots are cool, too, and one of the bad Transformers, the Galvatron, actually is Megatron himself, survived and escaped. Hence, that indicates there may be more sequels coming in. Didn't know whether it is a good or bad idea, as they have turned this into something quite terribly wrong. On the other hand, in terms of acting, everyone performed fairly. Extra credits to Mark Wahlberg and Stanley Chu, as their performances stood out than the rest. Out of 10 points, I rate Transformers: Age of Extinction a total of only 6.9. That's quite a low rating from me. Disappointed. It's not that I came with a high expectation. No, the film is excessively long, boring, and incoherent. Not everything is bad. There are good points about this film, too, but not that much. Still the worst in the franchise so far. Now, we have to wait to see whether the mess continued on its next sequel planned for release in 2016 or not. Hope it's not. With the Transformers: Age of Extinction, Michael Bay once again douses the Paramount Hasbro franchise in sensationalist overkill and sets it ablaze. This fourth installment marks the first in our proposed new trilogy of Transformer movies that take place in the same general world as previous entries. View 2, in the wake of Shia Bayu's very public meltdown, boasts a new human cast to alongside old Robo favorites like Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. The director reteams with Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon screenwriter Aaron Kruger, whose script knows no limitation to its ludicrousness, feeding a BA's affinity for mass destruction and on-screen mayhem. Together, Bay and Kruger have set a slackly bound product to inside a bloated 165-minute package and shipped it to thousands of screens worldwide. The entire production is ever fixed tone more. From BA's usual smattering of barefaced product placements to the inorganic ways Kruger incorporates China into the scenario to ensure a broader overseas box office haul. And no matter how lackluster the critical result, BA's well over $1 billion cumulative domestic take on his initial trilogy has justified it financially anyway. Every base creative decision he made from 2007 to 2011 and his generally lousy filmmaking will undoubtedly continue to amass huge profits. After resending Chicago to rubble to stop evil Decepticons in Darker of the Moon, the Transformers have been ousted by the US government that relied on their formidable world-saving talents. Duplicitous CIA agent Geraldo adding Kelsey Grammer proclaims the idea of the Transformers is over and at the same time spearheads a paranoia campaign complete with Remember Chicago posters to incite a national fear of robo-aliens. Adding also assigns his Black Ops outfit codenamed Cemetery Wind and led by the dastardly Savoy Tichusa Oliver to align with the villain Ouster Transformer Lockdown voice of Mark Ryan, otherwise unaffiliated with either the Autobots or Decepticons, to hunt down Optimus Prime voice of Peter Cullen and his allies. But it's all a hypercritical rouse in the name of patriotism, as adding has plans to build his own army of controllable robots with the help of Joshua Joyce, Stanley Chu, a Steve Jobs-esque tech mastermind wields Megatron's severed head as inspiration. If adding and Joyce can't deliver Optimus Prime, Lockdown will hand over something called the Seed that does who knows what and replaces the essential MacGuffin in the first Transformers, the Allspark. Meanwhile, Joyce hopes to create his own brand of Transformer and using bits from Megatron, builds a better version known as Galvatron and plans to control him. A plan that doesn't work out too well. Tossed into the mix are human characters, all of whom feel on a different plane of dramatic existence than their robotic counterparts, been to the obvious distinctions. Replacing Lieb's charming teen Santa Witwicky, who bought his first car that turned out to be a Transformer, is Texas widower or Kate Jagger Mark Wahlberg. While surveying a movie theater scheduled for demolition, BA's views on the future of cinema are not optimistic. Ironically enough, given his contributions to the dumbing of blockbusters, Cade finds an abandoned truck he means to restore and sell to pay his daughter Tessa's Nikola Peltzer college tuition. The truck turns out to be the damaged Optimus Prime in need of refurbishments. Conveniently, Cade runs a ramshackly robotics lab out of his barn and gets the Autobot leader back on his feet in a role that suits Wahlberg about as well as playing a science teacher in The Happening. Along with Tessa's race car driver boyfriend Shane, Jack Rayner, Cade, music, and Tessa are pulled into the previous paragraph's conflict between a Cemetery Wind and Lockdown arrive at the farm looking for Optimus Prime. Before long, Optimus and his new human cohorts resolve to bring the fight to adding hero alongside the few remaining Autobots. Muchama Bumblebee, cigar-chomping and gun-toting hound, John Goodman, a samurai soldier Drift, Ken Watanabe and Kochny voiced Rogue Crosshairs, A. John Diageo. All of them now rather are cynical about the human race. The Transformers dialogue is less annoying than in Revenge of the Fallen and Darker of the Moon in that fewer pop cultural references and slang terms inhabit the conversation, although occasional declarations like die creep in. However, there's endless Transformer monologuing about the imminent dangers from space and their increasingly complicated mythology. Yet, there is nothing resembling a dramatic arc for any of them. Even less developed area Tessa and Shane, the former being our typical Bay damsel hottie, and the latter of whom is memorable only because Cade refers to the Irish accented character as Lucky Charms throughout. Chew's over-the-top presence as our megalomaniacal scientist offers a buffoonish equal to roles had by John Turturro and John Malkovich in previous entries. Later on, Joyce develops our conscience and therein represents the only character with a dramatic arc in the entire production. Joyce's chintzy business partner, Sa Ewing Lee Bingbing, provides an excuse for the story to shift to its Hong Kong location in the final hour. And though she's set up as our tough businesswoman, she's later reduced to a gross Asian stereotype when she proves to be an adept martial artist. Littered throughout Age of Extinction are strains of Ridley Scott's Prometheus music, beginning with the prehistoric prologue when en route alien visitors wipe out the dinosaurs to convert Earth into a Transformer-friendly planet. Lockdown refers to these omnipotent aliens as the creators, and though they remain off-screen, are fleshy hand espied in the opening. Some 65 million years ago, whatever Thea did resulted in Dinobots, towering robots who transform into dinosaurs instead of vehicles. There are convenient and underexplained additions to the film's climactic battle, and they're present only to sell more toys. Similarly, the seed is never fully explained, even if we're given enough clues to make an educated guess. However, these creators are, Lockdown insists they're the origin of all life in our numerous galaxies. And so perhaps the seed is some sort of planet-changing device that will inevitably come to play in future sequels. But Optimus Prime bows to no one in the music, and he resolves to take the fight to his makers. And just like New My Reapers in the last scene of Prometheus, zips off into space after the creators in search of answers. Just a guess, but it's a doubtful BA's 5th and 6th franchisee installments will be about Optimus Prime's search for existential truth. Be's a famously narcissistic personality finds its way into the proceedings more than once, suggesting he might be aware of his own reputation enough to poke fun at himself. At one point, a theater owner quips about sequels ruining movies today, like this one and the previous two, which might suggest that Bay has lightened up, but his penchant for gratuitous destruction hasn't waned at all. Age of Extinction is filled with a new unintelligible action sequence after another and no consideration for a shot-to-shot logic, almost like the movie version of Dissonant Counterpoints, except not beautiful. The plot just keeps going and going. All of it's shot on top-notch tech, including a new, smaller, more maneuverable 3D cameras for maximum sensory overload. As always, expensive-looking CGI brings everything on screen to life, but Be's orchestration of the chaos is indecipherable. Through it all, Age of Extinction juggles competing plot strains, adding Earth's campaign to eliminate Transformers, Lockdown hunting Transformers for the creators, the emergence of Galvatron and his army of Joyce's man-made Transformer badass, music, and the human stuff when one of them would suffice. Less mean-spirited than Revenge of the Fallen and Darker of the Moon, BA's latest addition to the Transformers saga is more watchable than the last two entries, but nowhere near the fun of the 2007 original. Product placements for Bud Light, Gucci, Music Victoria's Secret, and several others stand out in distracting fashion. While the film's Asian stereotypes bring into question how the Chinese market will respond to a production that has clearly tried and failed to find a natural way of appealing to Chinese audiences. Everything about Age of Extinction reeks of being a Michael Bay film in the worst ways, and yet he's made worse. Casting Wahlberg, his star of Pain and Gain, a movie so bad this critic refused to write to review, was a fine choice. Except balance between humans and Transformers is never found. Crewmajuro hasn't conceived a way to make Transformers three-dimensional without 3D glasses, and his human characters always feel like an afterthought in a much larger story. BA's garbled action, Kruger's scattershot writing, duller humans, underdeveloped robots, these are the same issues that have plagued Transformers movies since the start. No matter how many coats of paint you slather on an old clunker, it's still arguably under the hood. Suffice it to say, there are many special effects in other Transformers movies, of which Transformers: Age of Extinction is the latest. And get ready for some higher praise, the least aggravating of a very aggravating lot. In fact, its greatest special effect, much like the previous three films, is its ability to deflect all criticism. These movies are not just a critic proof, they're quality proof. As long as the Autobots or Decepticons or emoticons or comic cons or whatever they're called keep playing Wastocities and brain cells, their target to audience of global fanboys and Viacom shareholders will be sated, and the rest of us can go down with the ship watching a Arthur's limited release. Cynicism aside, there is a certain nobility in our being so unapologetically excessive and uninterested in the accepted standards of what constitutes a good film. Sire, what you will about Michael Bay, the generalism of all four Transformers epics. He's a brand-name director who knows what his audience wants: faster cars, objectified women, cheap jingoism, cultural cliches, platitudinous dialogue, robots crashing into skyscrapers, and a beggar's banquet of fire explosions. And damn it, if he's not going to deliver. All this is not to defend the Transformers movies from the criticism they so richly deserve. However, it looks like we're stuck with these films. Music: how the next sequel is slated for a 2016 release, and based on approximately 615 minutes worth of evidence, the series probably won't get much better than a Transformers: Age of Extinction, which is less a recommendation than our statement of resignation. One of the absurdities of the Transformers series is the egregious over-design of the robots. They've always seemed impractical and arbitrarily designed, with only a few bolts and a swatch of color separating our Earth-saving Decepticon from our villainous Autobot. Or is that the other way around? Transformers: Age of Extinction addresses the issue with an improved facial detail and more seamless integration between robots, humans being used loosely here, and real-world backgrounds. All the better to experience the robot body slam against a Chicago building or some rundown structure in a Beijing side of the film's climax, in yet another depressing and transparent kiss to the lucrative Chinese movie-going market. The upgrade in visual effects proves less important than the upgrade in cast. That you just want to hit him. Shia Beef is nowhere to be found in Age of Extinction. He has been scrubbed from Transformers history and replaced by the softly rugged action film-ready Mark Wahlberg, whose character is saddled with the red state-ready name of Kate Jagger. 6 months behind on his Texas ranch. Kate is some sort of inventor, junk collector whose new acquisition turns out to be fugitive Autobot leader Optimus Prime, voiced by Peter Cullen. Optimus, along with other surviving robots, good and bad, are being hunted down by the US government after they destroyed much of Chicago in 2011. Transformers: Revenge Year of the Fallen, leading the anti-Ruta charge in part by making a silly illegal immigration parallel as CIA something or other, Harold adding Kelsey Grammer. No one would label Michael Bay a feminist director, so called it progress that too, instead of an unattainably hot love interest for Shirley Sam with Wiki. We have Cade's jailbait daughter Tessa and Nicola Peltz. Cade and Tessa look nothing like father and daughter, and their heated arguments about high school graduation and the perils of boys, specifically her BF Shane Jack Rena, who rather fortuitously drives rallying cars, are formulaic blather. Still, we a juvenile mentality like Bay's needs to stimulate a few salivary glands. Tess, as a 17-year-old behind, is ready for its close-up, and returning screenwriter Aaron Kruger straps some seriously questionable moral ground by working in a Texas Romeo and Juliet law that would allow 20-year-old Shane to date a minor. After adding or finds Optimus hiding in a cad's garage, father, daughter, and a Autobot go on the run, chased by Decepticons. A bounty hunter robot named Ada lockdown, and adding henchman Sevoy Titus Welliver. It's hard to keep track of what happens next, but whatever it is, it's loud and it continues for approximately 120 minutes. As a matter of fact, this movie is so long that Michael Bay is rumored to have written, shot, and edited Transformers 5 during the critics' screening of Transformers: Age of Extinction. Nestled amongst the exhausting amount of car chases, gunfights, and Roboter smackdowns is one passable idea. Stanley Tucci tears into the role of Joshua Joyce, a Steve Jobsian techmogul who melts dead Transformers down to the raw material called transformium, and then builds new and better Transformers for the US government to control. Galvatron, Joyce's most potent exemplar of a human-created transformer, Icy and Leech to find Optimus and help her retrieve the seed, a bomb that converts the soil into transformium. As a longtime director of visual and oral excess, Michael Bay's choice so far palette is a settled matter. Indeed, why evolve as an artist when your signature style is popular and profitable? And besides, who wouldn't want to play with the $165 million of someone else's money helping it to execute Bay's sophomoric vision on Sia again is deeply a mere mockery. The pair love their portions, up-angle shots, and cranium moves. They light scenes as if Earth was about 10 feet away from the sun. It's low, extremely polished and occasionally very exciting. BA's use of vertiginous angles as Cade tries to evade Savoy by climbing down a Hong Kong tenement is a highlight. The problem is that like our junkie who needs more product to achieve the same high, Bay feels he needs to provide more climaxes and more action to keep audiences satisfied. During Age of Extinction's third or fourth climax, it's hard to keep track. Transformers: Age of Extinction delivers one massive action sequence after another. At one point, a gigantic spaceship uses a powerful magnetic force to lift cars and boats into the air before dropping them onto city streets. Later, Optimus Prime rides into battle atop a colossal metal dinosaur, raising the spectacle to an entirely new level. The film constantly tries to outdo itself with bigger explosions and louder action, creating what feels like an endless competition of PG-13 destruction. Despite its impressive visual effects, the movie struggles because it lacks a compelling story and memorable characters. Without an emotional connection, the non-stop action eventually becomes empty spectacle. As the film reaches its conclusion, humans and Autobots gaze into the sky after a battle that has left billions of dollars in destruction and countless lives lost. Yet somehow, Tessa's perfectly applied pink lipstick remains untouched, as if the chaos around her never happened. I watched Transformers: Age of Extinction at Chicago's enormous Navy Pier IMAX theater alongside several film critics a few days before its official release. The theater was packed with excited fans eager to experience the film's nearly 2-hour and 45-minute runtime. I always try to approach every movie with optimism, but Michael Bay's latest entry in the franchise quickly tested that attitude. Knowing I was about to sit through another oversized blockbuster built on relentless action rather than meaningful storytelling, I prepared myself for a long endurance test. The IMAX presentation certainly delivered outstanding visuals and thunderous sound, making it the ideal way to experience the film technically. Unfortunately, even the impressive presentation couldn't overcome its repetitive nature. By the end, I was exhausted, my head ached, and the experience felt far longer than it should have. 5 years have passed since Optimus Prime and the Autobots saved Earth from the Decepticons during the Battle of Chicago, leaving much of the city in ruins. At the time, they were celebrated as heroes, fighting alongside the military and ordinary civilians, including Sam Witwicky. However, public opinion has dramatically changed. Fear and media influence have turned humanity against all Transformers, regardless of whether they are Autobots or Decepticons. A covered military organization known as Cemetery Wind now hunts every Transformer on Earth. The operation is led by the stern James Savoy, played by Titus Welliver, who answers to the ruthless CIA official Harold Attinger, portrayed by Kelsey Grammer. Attinger believes every Transformer must be eliminated simply because Earth belongs to humanity. To accomplish this mission, he partners with Lockdown, a deadly intergalactic bounty hunter voiced by Mark Ryan. Lockdown transforms into a sleek grey Lamborghini and serves mysterious beings known only as the Creators, whom he describes as the makers of all Transformers. Meanwhile, in Paris, Texas, struggling inventor and auto mechanic Cade Yeager, played by Mark Wahlberg, desperately searches for scrap metal while trying to save his ranch from foreclosure. His dream is to create a groundbreaking invention that will secure his family's future and allow him to support his teenage daughter, Tessa, portrayed by Nicola Peltz. Cade is extremely protective, enforcing a strict no-boyfriend rule despite Tessa naturally wanting more independence. Working alongside Cade is Lucas, played by T.J. Miller, whose role mainly serves as comic relief while reinforcing Cade as the dominant hero. By this stage of the film, it becomes clear that the human storyline is one of its weakest elements. Rather than adding emotional depth, many of the characters feel underdeveloped and exist primarily to fill time between action scenes. Michael Bay's trademark style is immediately recognizable through dramatic low-angle shots, glamorous cinematography, and exaggerated visual flair. Those stylistic choices are expected in a Transformers movie, but the dialogue remains a major weakness. Many conversations feel unnatural, filled with awkward humor and lines that do little to develop the characters. Throughout the series, screenwriter Aaron Kruger, who joined the franchise with Revenge of the Fallen, continues to rely on dialogue that often distracts rather than enhances the story. One simple line explaining that Cade moved from Boston to Texas after his wife's death would have made his character feel more believable. Instead, his strong Boston accent makes him seem oddly out of place. While searching for scrap, Cade discovers a damaged Optimus Prime hidden inside an abandoned movie theater. Although the location is actually Chicago's historic Uptown Theater, the film never explains how a semi-truck ended up there. The story simply moves on without addressing the obvious question. After bringing the truck back to his barn and attempting repairs, Cade realizes he has discovered a transformer when Optimus begins broadcasting a message calling for the remaining Autobots. Cemetery Wind quickly intercepts the transmission, sending James Savoy and his forces to eliminate Prime before Lockdown arrives to claim his target. Optimus rescues Cade and his family, but their survival depends heavily on Tessa's secret boyfriend, Shane Dyson, an Irish race car driver played by Jack Renner. Despite Cade's strict rules, Tessa has been hiding the relationship all along. This revelation highlights Cade's overprotective parenting while also showing how unaware he is of what is happening in his own household. Throughout the movie, Cade repeatedly mocks Shane with Irish stereotypes, calling him Lucky Charms instead of treating him like an individual. Watching these scenes reinforces one recurring problem with the franchise: the human characters often distract from what audiences actually came to see. Bay and Kruger fill the films with exaggerated personalities, forced humor, and loud arguments, yet none of these elements make the characters more engaging. The strongest moments remain those featuring the Transformers themselves. If the films focused more on the Autobots and Decepticons rather than lengthy human subplots, the overall experience would likely be much stronger. Even Optimus Prime, traditionally the franchise's source of wisdom, is given dialogue that often feels overly dramatic and philosophical. Inspirational speeches about destiny, souls, and the mysteries of the universe rarely carry emotional weight because they are surrounded by so much spectacle. Eventually, Optimus reunites with the surviving Autobots. The team includes Crosshairs, a sarcastic paratrooper voiced by John DiMaggio Hound, a heavily armed commando voiced by John Goodman with a southern accent drift, a samurai-inspired Transformer voiced by Ken Watanabe, and the ever-popular Bumblebee, once again voiced by Mark Ryan through his collection of radio clips and sound effects. One curious aspect of the Autobots is how many of them speak with distinctly human regional accents despite originating from another planet. Aside from Peter Cullen's iconic performance as Optimus Prime, it becomes difficult to understand why these alien robots are written to represent different Earth cultures and stereotypes. Transformers: Age of Extinction was directed by Michael Bay and written by Aaron Kruger. Based on Hasbro's Transformers franchise, the film was produced by Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, stars Mark Wahlberg, features cinematography by Amir Morkri, editing by William Goldenberg, and a musical score by Steve J. Blonsky. It was produced and distributed by Paramount Pictures, released on June 19, 2014, has a runtime of 165 minutes. And was made in the United States in English. Produced with a budget of $210 million, the film became a massive commercial success, earning approximately $1.105 billion at the worldwide box office.